The faint glow of the fluorescent light in my cramped studio apartment flickered as I hunched over my laptop, trying to make sense of the intricate economic model sprawled across my screen. It was well past midnight, and I'd been immersed in my thesis for 6 straight hours, fueled only by black coffee and the leftover pizza I'd grabbed from the campus food court earlier. This had been my unwavering routine for months. Work, study, sleep, repeat. At 24, I was in my final year of graduate school at Columbia, pursuing my master's in economics, and I was fiercely determined to achieve it all on my own terms. My name is Marcus, and I've always held a deep conviction that everything I earn should be a direct result of my own effort. While my classmates often lamented student loans and part-time jobs, I had deliberately chosen a different path. I resided in the smallest, most affordable apartment I could find near campus, exclusively shopped at thrift stores, and walked everywhere to meticulously save every penny. My parents, on countless occasions, had offered their assistance, but I had always politely yet firmly declined. They respected my decision, even if they didn't fully grasp its underlying philosophy. The truth is, my life could have unfolded in a vastly different manner. My parents, Robert and Patricia, are the proud owners of 3 highly successful tech companies spanning the East Coast. They aren't billionaires, but they are comfortably affluent enough that financial concerns have never once touched our family. Growing up, I witnessed firsthand their incredible dedication and relentless hard work as they built their businesses from the ground up. I yearned to prove to myself and to them that I could possess the same drive and independence. This philosophy served me exceptionally well until I met Valentina. I first laid eyes on her at Café Luna, a charming little coffee shop nestled between a bustling laundromat and a quaint used bookstore on Amsterdam Avenue. She sat alone at a corner table, her dark hair catching the soft afternoon sunlight that streamed through the window as she typed with focused intensity on her laptop. There was an undeniable concentration about her that immediately drew me in. When she finally looked up and caught my gaze, instead of annoyance, a warm smile graced her lips, and she waved me over. "You look like you're having the same kind of day I am," she said, gesturing to the towering stack of communications textbooks beside her laptop. "I'm Valentina, and I'm on the verge of a nervous breakdown over this media theory paper." I chuckled, settling into the chair opposite her. "Marcus, and trust me, I completely understand. Economics thesis? I think I've forgotten what sleep even feels like." That was 6 months ago, and it marked the beginning of something I genuinely believed would endure forever. Valentina was unlike anyone I had ever encountered.
A 22-year-old communications major from a middle-class family in New Jersey. She possessed an infectious energy that seemed to infuse everything with a newfound vibrancy. She introduced me to hidden corners of the city I had never explored. Tantalizing food trucks tucked away in Washington Heights, impromptu free concerts in Central Park, and enigmatic underground art galleries in Brooklyn that remained open until 2 a.m. With her by my side, my modest lifestyle transformed from a limitation into an exhilarating adventure. "I love how you know all these amazing places," she told me one evening as we savored a $5 plate of the most delicious tacos I had ever tasted from a truck near the Columbia campus. "Everyone else just wants to go to the same overpriced restaurants in Midtown. This is so much more authentic." I fell for her completely, irrevocably. She seemed to genuinely appreciate my values, my unwavering determination to forge my own path. When I explained the rationale behind my chosen lifestyle, she nodded thoughtfully and remarked that it was refreshing to meet someone who wasn't obsessed with material possessions. For the initial few months, everything was idyllic. We would spend countless hours wandering through the city, our conversations spanning everything from complex economic theory to her ambitious dreams of working in media. She would often come over to my tiny apartment, and we would playfully attempt to cook pasta together on my ancient stovetop, erupting in laughter when the smoke detector inevitably blared because I had, once again, burned the garlic. She never once complained about the cramped space or the fact that my couch was in reality a well-worn futon I had purchased used for a mere $60. But somewhere around the 4th month, a subtle shift began to occur. It started with seemingly innocuous comments. Sophia's boyfriend took her to Le Bernardin last week. She said it was absolutely incredible. Or, all the girls in my sorority are heading to the Hamptons this weekend. I told them I couldn't afford it, but it sounds absolutely amazing. I tried my best to remain positive, always suggesting appealing alternatives. We could check out that new food festival in Queens, I would offer, my voice hopeful. Or there's a free wine tasting at that gallery in Soho. At first, she would agree with genuine enthusiasm. But gradually I began to notice her smile becoming forced, her responses more polite than truly heartfelt. She started mentioning her friends' relationships with increasing frequency, always fixating on the extravagant gifts and lavish dates their boyfriends provided. The breaking point, the moment everything irrevocably changed, arrived with the announcement of her sorority formal. It was to be held at the iconic Rainbow Room, with tickets priced at a staggering $200 per person. When Valentina showed me the invitation, her eyes sparkled with unbridled excitement.
It's at the very top of 30 Rock. Can you even begin to imagine the view? My stomach plummeted. $400 for a single evening was more than I typically spent on food in an entire month. Val, I don't think I can swing that right now, I said, my voice carefully measured. Perhaps we could do something special that same night, just the two of us. Her face fell, the light in her eyes dimming. But all my friends are being taken by their boyfriends. I already told everyone you were coming. I'm truly sorry, but I simply cannot justify spending that much money on one evening. You know how strongly I feel about living within my means. She remained silent for a long, heavy moment, then forced a brittle smile. Of course, I understand. I'll figure something out. But I could clearly see the profound disappointment etched in her eyes. And something else, too. A nascent resentment that had never been present before. The tension only escalated from that point onward. Valentina began spending more and more time with her sorority sisters and noticeably less time with me. When we did manage to hang out, she seemed perpetually distracted, her gaze constantly fixed on her phone, scrolling through Instagram posts of her friends at opulent restaurants and exclusive events. She would show me pictures with comments like, "Look how happy Jessica looks," or "Doesn't this place look absolutely amazing?" I attempted to address the issue head-on. Val, I feel like you're not truly happy with how things are between us. If the money situation is genuinely bothering you, perhaps we should talk about it openly. She sighed, setting down her phone with a weary gesture. It's not about the money, Marcus. It's about, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like we're missing out on vital experiences because you're so incredibly rigid about your principles. They're not just principles, I retorted, feeling a surge of defensiveness. This is about building character, about proving that I can achieve success on my own terms. But what if your own terms are holding us back? She countered, her voice tinged with frustration. What if there's a middle ground between being completely dependent and living as if we're broke college students? I desperately wanted to explain that we weren't broke, that I was consciously choosing this lifestyle, but the words simply wouldn't come. How do you convey to someone that you could effortlessly afford the most expensive restaurants and lavish weekend trips, but you're deliberately choosing not to, all for the sake of some abstract concept of personal integrity? 2 weeks later, I decided to surprise her. I'd been working extra hours at my research assistant job, meticulously saving enough to take her somewhere truly special. I picked up all the ingredients for her absolute favorite meal, penne arrabbiata with fresh basil, and even splurged on a bottle of wine that cost more than I had ever spent on alcohol in my life. My plan was to cook for her at my place and then gently suggest that we could perhaps be a little more flexible about occasional splurges. I walked to her dorm building in Washington Heights, ascending the 3 flights of stairs to her floor. Her roommate had moved out the previous month, so I knew she would have complete privacy. I had texted her earlier, letting her know I was coming over, but she hadn't responded. I assumed she was probably engrossed in her studies. I used the spare key she had given me and quietly opened the door, intending to surprise her with the groceries and wine.
But the surprise, it turned out, was entirely on me. Valentina was there, but she was not alone. She was sitting on her bed with a guy I immediately recognized from campus, Bryce Morrison, a business major whose father owned a sprawling chain of luxury hotels. He was impeccably dressed in a polo shirt that likely cost more than my entire monthly rent, and around Valentina's neck gleamed a delicate gold necklace I had never seen before. Both of them looked up sharply as I entered, and the expression on Valentina's face wasn't one of shock or even guilt. It was pure annoyance, as if I had rudely interrupted something profoundly important. "Marcus," she said, slowly rising to her feet, "I didn't expect you to just show up." Bryce also stood, extending his hand with an unnervingly confident smile. "Hey, you must be Marcus. I've heard a lot about you." I stared at them both, the heavy grocery bag still clutched in my hands. "I texted you that I was coming over." "I was busy," Valentina stated simply, her voice devoid of emotion. "Bryce was just showing me some photos from his spring break trip to Monaco. His family has a yacht there." The sheer casualness of her tone struck me harder than any tears or apologies ever could have. This wasn't a fleeting mistake or a moment of weakness. This was a deliberate choice. "So, this is how it is?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper, trembling with a mixture of disbelief and pain. Valentina crossed her arms, a defensive posture. "Marcus, I think we need to be honest about what we both truly want. I care about you, but I'm exhausted from living as if we're struggling when we absolutely don't have to be." "We're not struggling," I countered, my voice rising slightly. "I'm making a conscious choice about how I want to live my life." "And I'm making a choice about how I want to live my life," she retorted, her voice firm. "I want to experience things, Marcus.
I want to travel, to dine at exquisite restaurants, to wear beautiful clothes. I want to feel special." "I thought I made you feel special." She softened, almost imperceptibly. "You did. But Bryce, he shows me a different kind of life. One where I don't have to choose between being with someone I care about and having the experiences I crave." I glanced at Bryce, who was conspicuously checking his expensive watch with a practiced air of nonchalance. "And what about everything we talked about authenticity and not being materialistic?" "I was trying to be what you wanted," Valentina said, her voice tinged with a hint of bitterness. "But that's not truly who I am." I gently placed the groceries down on her desk. "I hope you'll be happy," I said. And to my own surprise, I genuinely meant it, even as my heart shattered into a million pieces. As I walked back to my apartment, the conversation replayed endlessly in my mind. Had I been incredibly naive to believe that love could exist independently of lifestyle compatibility? Had I been selfish, perhaps, in imposing my deeply held values on someone who clearly didn't share them? The next few weeks were an agonizing blur. I threw myself into my thesis work with a desperate fervor, spending 16-hour days at the library, anything to avoid being alone with my tormenting thoughts. I meticulously avoided all the places Valentina and I used to frequent together, which essentially meant I had to relearn how to navigate the entire city. My friends tried their best to be supportive, but their well-intentioned updates only served to deepen my despair. "Dude, you're so much better off without her," my roommate Jake declared one evening. "She's been posting non-stop about her new boyfriend, designer bags, ridiculously expensive dinners, lavish trips to the Hamptons. She's practically become a completely different person." I made the grave mistake of looking at her Instagram. Photo after photo chronicled her new opulent life with Bryce. Champagne flutes clinking at exclusive rooftop bars, spontaneous weekend getaways to Martha's Vineyard, coveted front-row seats at sold-out Broadway shows. In every single picture, she looked absolutely radiant, adorned in clothes I had never seen her wear before. The captions were all about living my best life and grateful for new adventures. The most painful part was witnessing her apparent happiness. It forced me to confront the unsettling possibility that perhaps I had in fact been holding her back. Maybe my cherished principles were nothing more than a stubborn facade that had prevented her from experiencing true joy. I began to question everything I believed in. Was I truly being noble by living modestly, or was I merely indulging in a misguided sense of pride? Was there any genuine virtue in struggling when I clearly didn't have to?
My parents called regularly, and I could distinctly hear the concern in their voices when I monotonously assured them I was fine. 3 months after the soul-crushing breakup, I was in the midst of a particularly brutal study session when my phone vibrated. It was my mom. "Marcus, honey, your father and I are in the city for a conference. We would absolutely love to take you to dinner tonight." I almost declined. I hadn't been socializing much lately, preferring my solitude, but something in her voice, a subtle plea, made me agree. We met at a charming little Italian restaurant near campus, the kind of unpretentious place where I had always felt completely at ease. "You look so thin," my mother observed immediately, her eyes scrutinizing my face with that unique intensity only mothers possess. "Are you eating enough, dear?" "I'm fine, Mom, just incredibly busy with the thesis." My father leaned forward, his expression serious. "Son, we are immensely proud of how hard you're working, but we are also deeply concerned. You sound different lately." I wanted to brush off their concern, to deflect their worries, but sitting across from them, surrounded by their unwavering love, I felt my carefully constructed composure finally crack. I'm questioning whether I've been doing the right thing, living the way I have." "What do you mean, Marcus?" my mother asked gently, her voice filled with empathy. I found myself pouring out the entire story about Valentina, about how my chosen lifestyle had ultimately driven her away. Maybe I was selfish, I concluded, my voice barely above a whisper. Perhaps I was so consumed with proving something to myself that I completely forgot to consider what she truly needed. My parents exchanged a knowing look, and my father reached across the table, his hand warmly squeezing my shoulder. "Marcus, the right person will never ask you to compromise your core values. In fact, they will admire you immensely for possessing them." "But what if my values are wrong?" I asked, my voice laced with genuine doubt. "What if I'm just being stubbornly rigid and mistakenly calling it principle?" "There's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to earn your own way," my mother said, her voice reassuring. "But there's also nothing wrong with gracefully accepting help when it's offered out of pure love. We have always respected your fierce independence, but we also want you to know, unequivocally, that we are always here for you." After dinner, as we strolled back toward campus, my father unexpectedly stopped at a parking garage. "Actually, son," he said, a mischievous glint in his eye, "we have something for you." He led me to a sleek, gleaming black Tesla Model S, its chrome details shimmering under the bright garage lights. "Dad, I can't possibly accept this," I blurted out automatically, my mind reeling. "It's not charity, Marcus," he stated firmly, his voice leaving no room for argument. "It's a graduation gift."
You are about to complete your master's degree with honors, and you have unequivocally proven everything you needed to prove to yourself. We are incredibly proud of your independence, but we also want you to possess the tools you need to truly thrive in the next exciting phase of your life. My mother, her eyes brimming with affection, handed me the keys. We've also been diligently setting aside money for your future business ventures. When you are ready to embark on starting your own company, we want to be your very first investors. Not because you need our financial assistance, but because we wholeheartedly believe in your vision and your potential. I stood there, the cool metal of the keys in my hand, feeling utterly overwhelmed by their boundless generosity and unwavering faith. I don't know what to say. Say you'll be smart about this, Marcus, my father said, a gentle smile playing on his lips. Use the resources available to you wisely and strategically. There is absolutely no shame in accepting help when it is offered with genuine love and profound respect. The very next morning, I drove to campus in my brand new car, still trying to fully process the profound impact of everything my parents had said. I parked in the student lot and was in the process of gathering my books when I heard a strikingly familiar voice. Marcus? I turned to find Valentina standing just a few feet away, her eyes wide with astonishment as she stared at the Tesla. She was dressed far more casually than in her recent Instagram posts, wearing simple jeans and a cozy sweater that instantly reminded me of the girl I had first encountered at Café Luna. Is this your car?" she asked, her voice laced with uncertainty. "It's a graduation gift from my parents. I strive to keep my tone as neutral as possible." She took a hesitant step closer, her fingers tracing the smooth, polished surface of the car. "I had no idea your family could afford something like this." "You never once asked about my family?" I pointed out, a subtle edge to my voice. She remained silent for a moment, then looked up at me with an expression I couldn't quite decipher. "Marcus, I've been thinking about us a lot lately, about everything that happened between us." "Have you?" I asked, genuinely curious to see where this unexpected conversation was heading. "I think maybe I was too hasty. Perhaps I didn't give us a fair chance to truly work through our differences." She moved even closer, and I caught a faint whiff of the perfume she had always worn, the intoxicating scent I had once found so utterly captivating. I miss you. I miss us." I studied her face intently, searching for any flicker of the genuine connection we had once shared. But all I saw was a calculated opportunism, a kind of self-serving hope that churned my stomach.
"What about Bryce?" I asked, my voice flat. She waved her hand dismissively, as if swatting away an annoying fly. "That was never serious. I mean, he's fun, but he's not you. He doesn't possess your intelligence, your depth." "My depth," I repeated slowly, a sardonic edge to my tone. "But he has money." "It's not about money," she quickly interjected, her voice rising slightly. "It's about compatibility, about building a life together." I let out a short, humorless laugh. "Val, 6 months ago, you explicitly told me you were tired of living as if we were struggling. You said you wanted to experience things, to feel special. Has that suddenly changed?" She looked visibly uncomfortable, shifting her weight. "I've learned that experiences are utterly meaningless if you don't have the right person to share them with." "And you truly believe I'm that person?" "I think we could be good together," she said carefully, her gaze unwavering. "If we were both willing to compromise." I looked at her, standing there, so close to my new car, and suddenly everything became crystal clear. She wasn't there because she had genuinely realized she loved me. She was there because she believed I now had access to the lavish lifestyle she so desperately craved. The timing, I knew with absolute certainty, was no mere coincidence. "Valentina," I said gently, my voice calm and steady, "I think you're confusing love with opportunity." Her face flushed a deep crimson. "That's not fair, Marcus. You don't know how I truly feel. I know that you're standing here because you saw an expensive car, not because you've been missing the guy who used to burn garlic while cooking pasta in a tiny, cramped apartment." She opened her mouth to protest, but I continued, my voice unwavering. "I'm not angry with you, Valentina. I genuinely understand why you made the choices you did. We simply wanted fundamentally different things, and that's perfectly okay. But I am not interested in being with someone who only values me when they perceive that I can provide a certain lifestyle." "Marcus, please," she pleaded, her hand reaching out to grasp mine. "Can't we at least try to make this work?" I gently, but firmly, pulled my hand away. "I truly hope you find what you're looking for, Valentina. But it's not going to be with me." As I walked away from her, a profound sense of peace settled over me, a feeling I hadn't experienced in months. It wasn't a fleeting peace that comes from winning an argument or being proven right, but a deeper, more enduring satisfaction that stemmed from knowing precisely who I was and what I truly stood for. A few weeks later, I found myself back at Café Luna, diligently working on the final revisions to my thesis.
The very same corner table where I had first met Valentina was now occupied by a young woman about my age, surrounded by an impressive array of books on sustainable development and environmental policy. She was frowning intently at her laptop screen, occasionally running her hands through her curly red hair in a gesture of frustration. "Excuse me," I said, approaching her table with a hesitant smile. "I couldn't help but notice you're working on something related to environmental economics. That's actually my field of study." She looked up, and her face instantly lit up with genuine interest. "Really? I'm Celeste. I'm currently working on my doctoral dissertation about carbon pricing mechanisms in developing countries, and I'm completely stuck on this one particular section." "I'm Marcus," I said, settling comfortably into the chair across from her. "I'd be more than happy to take a look if you'd like." As we leaned over her laptop together, engrossed in a detailed discussion about the intricate complexities of cap-and-trade systems, a profound realization dawned on me. This felt incredibly natural, in a way that nothing with Valentina ever had. Celeste was undeniably passionate about her work, driven by an insatiable, genuine curiosity rather than any external validation. When she learned about my modest lifestyle, she nodded in sincere approval. "It's truly refreshing to meet someone who isn't obsessed with maintaining appearances," she remarked, a genuine smile on her face. "Half the people in my program seem far more interested in merely looking like academics than actually being academics." Over the subsequent weeks, as Celeste and I continued our regular meetings at the cafe, I found myself gradually opening up to her about my past relationship with Valentina. She listened with thoughtful attentiveness, asking insightful questions that encouraged deeper reflection rather than offering simplistic, easy judgments. "Do you think I was wrong to be so rigid about my principles?" I asked her one afternoon, a lingering doubt in my voice. "I think you were being authentic, Marcus," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "And authenticity is a rare and precious quality. The right person will appreciate that about you, not try to fundamentally change it." "But what if authenticity means being alone?" I mused, a hint of melancholy in my tone. She smiled, a warm, reassuring smile. "Then you're alone for all the right reasons, which is infinitely better than being with someone for all the wrong ones." Looking back now, with the clarity that time and distance provide, I realized that my relationship with Valentina taught me an invaluable lesson about the crucial difference between compromise and capitulation. In any healthy relationship, you absolutely must be willing to meet in the middle on practical matters, but when someone demands that you fundamentally alter who you are at your core, that is not compromise, that is unequivocally erasure. I have no regrets about the way I chose to live during graduate school. Those years of intentional modesty instilled in me invaluable discipline, fostered profound self-reliance, and cultivated the ability to discover genuine joy in the simplest of pleasures. They also unequivocally demonstrated that my true worth is not and never will be determined by my material possessions or my family's substantial wealth. It is determined by my unwavering character, my relentless work ethic, and my capacity to forge genuine, meaningful connections with others. As for Valentina, I heard through mutual friends that she and Bryce parted ways a few months after our fateful conversation in the parking lot. Apparently, she discovered that his family's immense wealth came with a complex web of expectations and restrictive conditions that she had not, in her initial excitement,
anticipated. She is currently dating someone new, another individual of considerable financial means, and from what I can gather, she is still relentlessly searching for that elusive, perfect combination of financial security and profound emotional fulfillment. I sincerely hope she finds it, truly. But I also hope she eventually learns the profound lesson that I learned, that love built solely on conditions is not, in its truest essence, love at all. These days, I am proudly working at a prominent think tank in Washington, D.C., conducting vital research on income inequality and economic policy. I am finally ready to graciously accept my parents' generous offer to help fund my own consulting firm. Not because I am dependent on their money, but because I am now supremely confident in my ability to utilize it wisely and strategically. Celeste and I have been together for over a year now, and she is making the move to D.C. to work on environmental policy at the EPA. Sometimes a lingering doubt surfaces, and I wonder if I handled things with Valentina in the absolute best way. Perhaps I was too inflexible, too quick to judge her for simply desiring nice things. But then I vividly recall the look in her eyes when she first saw my car, and in that moment, I know with unwavering certainty that I made the right choice. The truth is, I don't know if I was the villain in that relationship. Perhaps we both were, in our own unique ways. Maybe that's simply what happens when two individuals desire fundamentally different things but stubbornly attempt to force a connection anyway. What I do know with absolute clarity is that I am profoundly grateful for the entire experience. It taught me that having deeply held principles means absolutely nothing if you are unwilling to live by them when faced with adversity. It taught me that the right person will love you unconditionally for precisely who you are, not for who you could potentially become if you drastically altered every aspect of yourself.
And most importantly, it taught me that sometimes the most loving and courageous act you can perform is to let someone go, even when every fiber of your being desperately yearns to hold on. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life trauma. Got a take on the situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We love hearing from you.